All right, everybody, here we go on the pump fake following divisional weekend in the NFL. 3 games remaining in the season. It's crazy that we are already here. And yeah, conference championships are set. It will be the Washington Commanders traveling to Philadelphia to take on the Eagles. And well, here we are again, the Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs. Allen Mahomes 4 in the playoffs, both games of the trip to the Super Bowl on the line. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you are watching this on YouTube, please be sure to do all that YouTube stuff, like, subscribe, comment if you will. Leave a review if you're listening to it as a podcast. I'm going to spend a heavy majority of this show talking about the exact game that you guys expect me to talk about, and that would be Buffalo and Baltimore. Because, well, for a lot of reasons. One, I'm a Josh Allen mark, and anybody who's followed me for an extended amount of time knows that about me, and I don't try to hide it or anything like that. And the conversations and the dialogue after this game, it just crack me up. They crack me up because Baltimore Ravens obviously lose to Buffalo 27-25. The Ravens get the ball late in the fourth quarter after the Bills kick a field goal. Buffalo was in position to maybe score a touchdown and put the game on ice, but they settle for a field goal inside the 5, which turned out to be a smart decision by Sean McDermott. So they kick a field goal. They go up 8 points. Baltimore gets the ball back. They go down the field. They score a touchdown. Lamar Jackson throws a pass to Mark Andrews on the 2-point conversion, which is a little bit behind him, but still very catchable by Andrews, and he drops the ball, and the Bills win the game and advance to the AFC Championship game. And the funniest thing to me, and the most expected thing, by the way, is before Mark Andrews can even stand back up, every single TV personality from the 2 big networks sprints to Twitter. This isn't on Lamar. It's not Lamar's fault. It's okay, 8. You did great, 8. And to be fair to Lamar Jackson, he didn't play awful. He had a fine game. Threw 2 touchdown passes, but also had an awful interception that he threw to Taylor Rapp and fumbled the ball, which was picked up by Von Miller and set up a touchdown for the Bills. But as soon as they can, it's not your fault, Lamar. You did all you could, Lamar. It's not Lamar's fault. But had the script been reversed, if Josh Allen had 2 turnovers and the Bills lost, everybody who raced to the defense of Lamar Jackson would rip Josh Allen apart for the next 8 months with the same tired narratives that have all been proven false. He's a turnover machine. He can't win the big game. He can't beat big-time quarterbacks. He can't get past the divisional round. They all would have said it. All of them. And every narrative that they try to throw at Josh Allen, he just defeats. He's a turnover machine. Well, this season, he has the lowest mistake percentage in NFL history since the merger. In terms of bad play percentage, that is a sack, a fumble, or an interception. It's under 5%. The lowest in NFL history. The Bills aren't going to do anything this year. Oh, well, they won their division quicker than anybody in 15 years. He just beat Lamar in the playoffs again, which, by the way, I do want to say this. As a Steelers fan and as a Josh Allen guy, obviously, I have a disdain for the Ravens. This isn't anything against Lamar Jackson himself, okay? All jokes aside, seems like a great dude. He's a top 5 player in the NFL. He's incredible. My beef isn't with Lamar Jackson. My annoyance and my beef comes from the media who coddle him to no end. He is by far the most coddled player in the NFL, maybe the most coddled superstar in the history of the NFL. He had a great year. A great year. No denying that whatsoever. Fantastic player. But the facts are also the facts. He's now 3-5 in the playoffs. He's 0-2 against Josh Allen head-to-head, and he's a combined 0-3 against Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs. Been a one AFC championship game. And in the playoffs, his numbers are bad. So let's just start calling it like it is. Why people feel like they have to tiptoe around everything with Lamar Jackson and coddle him and make excuses for him when they wouldn't do the same thing for Josh Allen, I don't know. But you and I know damn well, had it been Josh Allen who threw an interception and fumbled, Ryan Clark would have gotten on Get Up this morning and ripped him to shreds, and he would have done it for the next 8 months. How do we know that? Well, because last year after the Chiefs beat the Bills in a game that Josh Allen played well in, he did just that. So my beef isn't with Lamar Jackson. My beef is with the people who are put on TV to talk about football, who constantly coddle him and refuse to criticize him whatsoever. But if 17 and Blue had that exact same game and come away with a loss, they would have ripped him to shreds. That's all. And I think that's all my annoyance has ever been with it, is that in their eyes, Lamar Jackson can do no wrong, and in their eyes, Josh Allen can do no right. Now, I'm not going to sit up here and pound my chest saying that Josh Allen had a fantastic game. He played well. The numbers won't back that up. But you know what he did do? He didn't turn the ball over. Protected the ball. Lamar Jackson didn't. What he did do was run through the Ravens defense from 10 yards out and drag 3 of them into the end zone and continue to show that he's the best dual threat quarterback this league has ever seen. But I don't want to talk about that. The same people who said stats don't matter when it comes to MVP last year will point at Josh Allen's box score and say that he did nothing this game, which couldn't be further from the truth. Again, I'm not going to sit up here and say that he played like Superman. I actually saw a fan who had a perfect analogy, and she said, the scariest part about this Bills win is that Josh Allen was Clark Kent. It wasn't Superman. He had a very like quarterback average game for Josh Allen standards. Again, he had that amazing touchdown run from 10 yards out, or he just ran through the Ravens defense. The other one was from like 2 yards out, and it was a sneak. But Josh did what he needed to do. It's not like he didn't make any throws this game. Early on the Bills' first drive, beautiful throw down the middle of the field over a defensive back's head to Khalil Shakir, set up a touchdown. Like, Josh was efficient. And that's what the Bills are. They've completely changed their identity and philosophy offensively, where they know they can dip into the well of Josh being incredible, but they haven't made their entire identity be, okay, Josh, you got to be incredible or we're not going to win. And Josh still did just that, dipped into the well of him being ungodly good at football, but he didn't have to do it every play. Now, a lot of the shortcomings in terms of the numbers was Joe Brady, his play calling in the second half was questionable at best. There was a lot of scared play calling. A screen pass to Dawson Knox on 3rd and 5. Don't love that, bub. Can't be doing that. It felt like Joe Brady forgot he had Josh Allen in that game, which, by the way, Joe Brady has done an incredible job all year. That's why he's getting head coach interviews, because since he took over last year as the offensive coordinator, he's done phenomenal. But last night, it felt like he was coaching a little scared. Sean McDermott, on the other hand, did not. Okay, they went for it on 4th down. They made sound decisions offensively and defensively. While there were some explosive plays from Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson, and the 3rd down stuff is still a problem, the defense did what they needed to do. They had 3 takeaways and were a big reason why they won that game. There's a lot that they need to clean up ahead of Kansas City. Again, the 3rd down defense stuff being the biggest, but the defense played well. Matt Milano played with his hair on fire. Terrell Bernard had a massive game. Ed Oliver had a nice game. Damar Hamlin, I know he got beat over the top by, I believe it was Rashad Bateman on one play, but he also had multiple plays where he was getting into the backfield and tackling Derrick Henry. Damar Hamlin had himself a nice little game as well. And we'll have plenty of time to talk about Bills Chiefs in the next week. So I'll save most of that for that show and focus on the Baltimore game. But that's where my annoyance comes from. It's not that it's not that Lamar Jackson is a great player. Obviously, he is. My annoyance isn't with him. Seems like a great dude, class act after the game. They were talking to him in the press conference. They asked what he said to Josh. He's like, told him to go win. I hope he wins an MVP. I hope he wins a Super Bowl. So there seems to be a nice camaraderie there between Josh and Lamar. And that's great. My problem isn't with Lamar. Also, I don't know Lamar, so I wouldn't have a reason to have a personal grievance with him. Obviously, I root against him or against his team because I'm a Steelers fan. And, death to the Ravens until my dying breath. But him personally, there's no issues with Lamar Jackson. My issue is with how he is treated by the media. And there just seems to be this unspoken rule that you cannot criticize him. And it's annoying. And for Josh Allen, there seems to be this unspoken rule that you cannot applaud him. And that is where my issues lie. So now when we look at everything in a bubble, Josh Allen has 4 more playoff wins than Lamar Jackson. He is 2-0 head-to-head against Lamar Jackson in the postseason. It was never a conversation or debate to me, and now I think that it's all but put to bed. We know who's better. They're both great, and I understand everybody wants to say, we don't have to do this. Yes, we do. We've done it in every generation with every quarterback ever. There's always going to be a debate on who's better, and that's fine. Why we treat that like it's toxic is stupid. I can appreciate both talents, and they're both incredibly talented. Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, 2 of the 3 or 4 best quarterbacks in football. I think right now there's an undisputed top 4, and it's Mahomes, Allen, Burrow, Lamar. And they would go in that order, in my opinion. And if you wanted to flip-flop Burrow and Lamar, I wouldn't argue with you too much because, Lamar took his team to the playoffs this year, and I understand all of that. The defensive stuff isn't on Joe Burrow, but, at the end of the day, quarterbacks get looked at for that stuff, whether it's right or wrong. But the undisputed top 4 quarterbacks in the league are Mahomes, Allen, Burrow, Lamar. We are always going to debate and rank and list and talk about who's better than who. Like, that's part of covering sports, especially in the offseason when there's nothing else to talk about. We're going to, okay, who's better? That's the fundamental of talking about sports is, okay, hey, who do you think's better? So why everybody gets all butthurt about it when you say, oh, I think Allen's better than Lamar. Like, oh, why do we got to do this? Why can't we just appreciate both talents? I do. But I'm also going to point out which one's better. Nothing wrong with that. And everybody's getting all up in arms about it. Like, gee, relax. That's what talking about sports is about. Hell, multiple outlets throughout the year do quarterback rankings every week. That's part of the foundation of talking about sports is, hey, who's better? Why everybody all of a sudden is acting like that's blasphemous is stupid. Now, is there some toxicity when talking about quarterbacks? Yeah, and I'm not going to pretend I'm not guilty of it. Fandom is also part of this, and you let it leak in. Completely fair. But to act like, oh, man, let's just appreciate both talents. We don't got to do this. Yeah, we do. We've always done it, and we're always going to do it because that's what talking about sports is. Hey, who's better? Why do you think they're better? Make your case. And I think that Josh Allen has certainly made his case as to why he's better than Lamar Jackson. Even if Lamar Jackson wins a 3rd MVP, great. Whereas Josh Allen's playing right now, Lamar's not. And that's just what it is. In a year, by the way, where everybody and their mother was saying, yeah, the Ravens are going to get right back and they're going to be in the Super Bowl. They're going to get over that hump and get past the AFC title game. Well, Josh Allen has beaten the Chiefs, the Lions, and the Ravens this year. So I would probably say he's more deserving of being called the 2nd best quarterback in football. And in terms of this year, he's been the best quarterback in football. Now, I'm not going to sit up here and say, oh, he's better than Mahomes because he's got to win a ring before we can even have that conversation to begin with. But, just from a lens of the 2024 season, Josh Allen's been the best quarterback in football. He's been the best player in football. He should win the MVP. I don't know if he's gonna, but he should. And even if Lamar gets a third one, that's great. Who's playing in January? Who's playing late into January more? It's Josh. Who's doing more with less? It's Josh. My annoyance, my beef is not with Lamar Jackson, the man, because again, he seems like a pretty well put together dude, nice head on his shoulders, swell guy. My annoyance, my beef is with how he is covered and why it is treated as blasphemous taboo if you dare utter criticism about him. And it's something that really needs to stop. Because instead of hyping up the Bills and giving them their flowers for winning a game and getting to the AFC title game, all people seem to want to do is say, oh, poor Lamar. Fuck that. Josh Allen and the Bills won. Give them credit instead of throwing a pity party for the guy who lost. Now, in terms of the other games that took place this weekend, Rams and Eagles. Yeah, it was a snow globe game, the second one of which we've gotten this year. We had Steelers-Browns earlier this year on Thursday Night Football, and then it just poured snow in Philadelphia. It started off as almost like freezing rain, and then it turned into snow that laid on the ground, and we got that incredible Saquon Barkley run at the end of the game that put them up 2 scores. He's like smacking himself in the helmet as he's running in, and that made me want to run through a wall personally. And then the Rams score. They get the ball back. There's a heap of questionable play calling from the Eagles that gives the Rams the ball back again. And then Matthew Stafford makes a beautiful throw down the sideline to Puka Nacua, which he makes an incredible catch on. And when Puka Nacua makes that catch, in my head, I'm like, oh my God, the Rams are going to win. The Eagles are really going to blow this. Now, ultimately, they held on to win. But there is some worry with that with the Eagles. It's just, yeah, Saquon's great, but like Jalen Hurts hasn't had a great year. And there just seems to be something that could go wrong at any given moment with the Eagles. And I've made the analogy of like a Jenga tower all year long, where like if you just pull something just a little bit too fast, everything comes crumbling down. And I'm kind of waiting for that Jenga piece to get pulled from the Eagles. And last week was another example of why. Like Saquon Barkley's awesome. But if you can even just hem him in a little bit, like, he's going to get his. You're not going to completely stop him. But if you can at least limit him to where the Eagles can't lean on him all game and you force them to throw a little bit more, that's not to crap on Jalen Hurts or anything. He just hasn't been all that great this year. But unfortunately, they are a pick your poison type team because the Rams did try to do that. I believe it was a fourth down and medium. The Eagles were driving, trying to get into at least better field goal range for Jake Elliott, and an A.J. Brown slant, which my buddy Greg Rosenthal called the most unstoppable play in football, which, I mean, fair enough. So I'm looking forward to seeing how the Commanders combat that next week. But the Eagles, it felt like they were doing their best to give that game back to the Rams, a game that they had well in hand with under 5 minutes to go. And the Rams almost complete the comeback. So very exciting end. Game started kind of slow. And again, it was a bad weather game, but the final 8 minutes of that game were incredibly exciting. Now we're going to see what happens with Matthew Stafford. It sounded like with Sean McVay's comments and Matthew Stafford's own comments, he could be pondering a future past the Los Angeles Rams, whether that be retirement, whether that be playing with a different team. I don't know. But something to pay attention to with the Rams there. And then the Lions and Commanders. That's devastating if you're a Lions fan. This was supposed to be the year. I mean, if you look at the progression that the Lions have made since Dan Campbell took over, all right, it was a 4-win season in the first year, 9-win season and the cusp of a playoff berth in year 2, 12-win season last year, and a few questionable calls away from going to the Super Bowl. The next logical step would be, all right, they won 15 games this year. They're arguably the best team in the NFL. They're going to come out of the NFC and represent the NFC in the Super Bowl. But instead, they get the first round bye. And then a hungry Commanders team who came into this year 20 years without a playoff win. They win wildcard game last week in Tampa. And they go up to Detroit and hand out a 45-point ass kicking to the Lions. And Jared Goff had a bad game. He threw a pick six. He threw an interception in the red zone to Mike Sanders. Still, they got a little bit too cute with the play calling. Ben Johnson, who's now the head coach in Chicago, by the way, dialing up a reverse pass where Jameson Williams threw the ball, and that was intercepted by Mike Sanders still as well. The Commanders had a fumble recovery. It was just a sloppy offensive performance from the Lions, and the Commanders took full advantage of that and were very opportune with their takeaways and set up Jayden Daniels in the offense to succeed, which, by the way, Diami Brown had a big game. Terry McLaurin caught a screen pass and ran 70 yards for a touchdown, or 80 yards, however long it was, a long touchdown. And so while everyone's going to maybe continue looking past the Commanders, it's something that they shouldn't do, because remember, they beat the Eagles earlier this season. They've always seemed to at least give the Eagles fits. Even if they lose the game, I mean, the game seems to always be close. Remember, Taylor Heineke and the Commanders ended the Eagles' perfect season a few years ago. Sam Howell gave them hell last year. So, I mean, these two teams always play each other. The Commanders always play the Eagles well. You know, playing in the division, a familiar opponent, that tends to be the case. And I'm sure a lot of people are just going to pen in the Eagles to get back to the Super Bowl. I'm not. A lot of people penned in the Lions to get past the Commanders, and instead they went out and put up damn near 50 points. Jayden Daniels, as it is right now, is a top 6, 7, 8 quarterback in the NFL. He's in the midst of the greatest rookie season in the history of the NFL. And the guys that they have on both sides of the ball, their role players especially, have stepped up. Diami Brown's had an incredible stretch of games. Zacchaeus has been a nice little piece at receiver. Zach Ertz has consistently been reliable. Austin Eckler and Brian Robinson in the backfield. And you look at the guys that they brought in as veterans on defense. Bobby Wagner was an all-pro. Frankie Louvu probably should have been an all-pro. Jeremy Chin's had a really nice year at safety. Dante Fowler off the edge has had a career year. All of these guys that they brought in. But Mike Sanders, still, who we already talked about, incredible player, rookie out of Michigan at cornerback. And they acquire Marshawn Lattimore as well. Like, you can't look past them, especially if you're the Eagles. Team that's already beat you this year, a division rival who's not going to just be happy to be there. They're going to show up. This might be gravy to them, but they want more gravy on top of this meal. You can't just look past them. So, looking forward to see how that plays out. And then, of course, Houston and Kansas City. I know a lot of people were upset about the calls, myself included. The roughing the passer call at the beginning of the game that led to a field goal for the Chiefs. The unnecessary roughness penalty called on Kansas City for hitting Mahomes as he slid, even though they hit each other and not Mahomes. And then Mahomes flopping at the end of the game, trying to draw another call, which is just Bush League stuff. I will say, I think that the Chiefs would have won without those calls. And I'm not going to sit up here and say that the only reason that they won Super Bowls is because of referees. I think that's stupid. Nor am I going to say that games are rigged. But I will say, however, if you're somebody who does think games are rigged, A, no, they're not. But B, this game is pretty good evidence for you to show people and be like, see, I told you, which is not what the NFL needs. And every analyst this way, that way has talked about it throughout the weekend. You know, Sam Monson of the 33rd team was somebody who pointed out, is like, I'm not going to even begin to talk about, the games are rigged, people, but, this game isn't helping the NFL's cause. And before we start, no, the NFL is not rigged. And if you think that, you're a moron. But for people who think that the Chiefs get favorable calls, I mean, this game really was a black eye to the NFL. Because all anyone could talk about after a divisional round playoff game was how bad the officiating was. And look, officiating is bad in just about every NFL game. But when it is talked about like this after a playoff game, that's a problem. A problem that the NFL needs to address this offseason. And again, do I think that the Chiefs win without the penalties? Sure. But what I think and what is factual, or, that doesn't matter. Because what's factual is that the roughing the passer penalty on Will Anderson came on a third down and led to the Chiefs getting a field goal. If the Chiefs don't get that field goal, it's 20-12 at the end of the game when the Texans have the ball at the end of the fourth quarter, instead of 23-12 And we're talking about maybe a completely different outcome where if they score a touchdown there on conversion, then the game goes to overtime and who knows what happens. Do I think the Chiefs would have won? Yeah, but there's no guarantee of that. So very much, that roughing the passer call impacted the outcome of the game. And again, I'm not going to sit up here and, claim, oh man, the Chiefs are only a dynasty because of the refs. No, that's stupid. But for the people who do claim that, Saturday's game didn't do the other side of that any sort of favors, because all those people can now point at this game and be like, see, told you. And I myself tweeted, I was like, okay, I get why people think games are rigged. I don't think that they are, but I can start to understand the tinfoil hat people to some extent. And it's something that the NFL needs to fix very badly. Whether it's the QB slide stuff, which they should just take that out of the game altogether. If you're going to run, you're a runner. You're going to get hit. Deal with it. You got to make roughing the passer reviewable. Like we have replay. Everybody at home, everybody in the booth. By the way, credit to Joe Aikman to Joe Buck and Troy Aikman for just calling out the bullshit all game long. Aikman especially. Aikman is so far past giving a fuck, and it's great. It's so funny. On the penalty where Mahomes slid and they threw a penalty for unnecessary roughness, you can audibly hear Aikman go, "Oh, come on." Like he's just pissed off beyond belief at these calls, and it's actually really funny. And Buck and Aikman are the gold standard of play-by-play and commentary guys, and they've done a tremendous job, and they get better with time. But I think that Aikman especially, like, really just getting unbuttoned a little bit and saying what he really thinks, I think that makes for incredible television and incredible commentary. So credit to those two for calling it out. Russell York as well, the rules analyst, was like, yeah, that was a bad call. So it's something that the NFL needs to fix this offseason. Take away quarterback slides. If you're going to run, you're a runner, you're going to get hit. Oh, well. Make roughing the passer reviewable. It should not be this hard. But now the stage is set for conference championship weekend. Again, Bills, Chiefs, the fourth playoff matchup between Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. And then Commanders, Eagles, the third matchup of the year, and all NFC East conference championship on the NFC side. We'll be back later on in the week to talk about all of that. In the meantime, though, again, thank you guys so much for watching and or listening, however you're doing it. If you're on YouTube, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. If you're listening as a podcast, be sure to leave a review. I will see you guys later on in the week to preview conference championship weekend around the NFL. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. This is the Pump Fake.